For the first time, probably since Tenet, we finally have a movie that you must see on the big screen. And that's partially because it's not available anywhere else. It's not on streaming yet. But it's partially because the intensity and the visual component of this movie needs to be experienced on a big screen. Let's talk about A Quiet Place Part 2. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new John Krasinski directed and written by film, A Quiet Place Part 2. He actually had a hand in writing the first one, but he wrote it with two other guys that helped him sort of create this universe. But this one he wrote all by himself, and like the first one, he directed it as well. Before we get into the specifics of A Quiet Place Part 2, I do want to welcome you to Dan Reviews It. If you have not been here before, welcome. Thank you for finding this video. Please consider subscribing. I am nearing 800 subs on the channel, which is my next big milestone, so it would be very cool to have you as a part of that. And also, very important, comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this film if you saw it. All right, so this movie, like I said up top, is only in theaters, and we're getting a lot more of that these days. There's some movies, like In the Heights, which I just reviewed yesterday. That's available on HBO Max. I urge you to see that one on a big screen as well. But this one, A Quiet Place Part 2, you must. It is not available anywhere else right now. Now, Paramount Plus, I believe, will have it in 45 days from its release, so it will be certainly streaming earlier than most movies, but in terms of needing to see this on the big screen, this is the movie I think that should bring people back to theaters. I really do. And it came out a couple of weeks before In the Heights, so as much as I want you to see In the Heights on the big screen, this one, I think as well, needs to be experienced on a big screen. You have to immerse yourself. And I saw it while I was on vacation in Oregon, and it was very cool because it was this like living room theater experience, which we do not have here where I am in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. But I've heard about them, and so it was really cool. I was able to watch it like on a couch with my buddy, and when things were happening, I would like grab his leg or whatever. Because this is the kind of experience we need right now, I feel like. This is a great movie. I'll just cut to the chase on that. Now, I loved A Quiet Place Part 1 as well. I believe when it was first released, I gave it an A-. I don't know if I was reviewing... I don't know if we had Film Fanatics at that point or not. I don't know if I was reviewing things on YouTube during those couple of years. But in retrospect, I would give Quiet Place an A. That first one. I've watched it now a couple of times, and just thinking about, creating this entire universe and what they did with that movie and how brilliantly put together it was. So I had very high expectations for Part 2. I won't deny that. And everybody from that first one is back, including John Krasinski. Now, this is not necessarily spoiler because you see it in the trailer, but the first few scenes of this movie take place on day one of the world, basically imploding with these creatures coming down. So we see how that happened, and it was something that in Part 1 I actually really appreciated, that they didn't sort of give us a huge backstory. They just threw us in the middle of the issue, the crisis, and then explored the characters. And I really enjoyed that they did that in Part 1. But now that we're in the second one, I like as well that they're exploring the background of how this happened. And we still don't necessarily know how it happened. We're saving that maybe for Part 3, which this one does sort of end in a possible, sequel bait sort of thing. I think it also could be wrapped up here just fine and not have a Part 3. But it would be kind of cool if this was a trilogy, I suppose. But Emily Blunt, of course, is back. And Noah Jupe as the son, and then the deaf gal, Millicent Simmons, who is deaf in real life, has a bigger role here. If memory serves, I would say she has a bigger role here than in the first one, and she knocks it out of the park. We add Cillian Murphy in the cast this time around as a buddy of the family. At first, I was kind of unclear. I thought maybe he was like their uncle or something, but I think he's just their buddy. But basically, we experienced those first couple of scenes of, okay, this is how it happened. We still, again, don't know why. And then we fast forward to, you know, right after basically the first movie ends. And I won't even give spoilers for that first movie and how that ends, but we pick up right from where that leaves off. So the family does some exploring, and they hear a recording of Beyond the Sea on the radio, and they figure out that, oh, it's not just a song, it's a message. They're telling us to go, beyond the sea, and maybe we'll find some sort of life there. So through a series of different circumstances, the group kind of breaks up. And at one point, there's three different sort of, Emily Blunt goes off by herself. They have a new baby, of course. If you saw the first one, you know she gives birth. So they have the new baby to worry about and keep quiet. And so they need oxygen tanks to sort of mask him up so he won't cry. Or maybe it's a she, I don't know. But whatever, so the baby won't cry. And then the son is left to his own devices because Cillian Murphy and Millicent Simmons, their characters go off on their own as well. So at one point, you've got three separate things happening. But the way Krasinski directs this, just intertwining all three of them, they're all experiencing very similar things to one another at the same exact times, just in completely different places. I thought that was a very interesting thing. And to expand this universe a little more, we don't really learn anything more about the monsters. We got what we knew from the first one, and sort of, we didn't even build on that. We just sort of kept the same themes going. And I didn't really mind that. Maybe we could have explored a little more, but these creatures don't seem that complex, to be completely honest. So I don't know what more there is to kind of explore with that. So I like that, but I'm telling you, John Krasinski, I think, is one of Hollywood's power players right now. I love that they decided together, Paramount Pictures and John Krasinski decided together to not release this in theaters until the pandemic was not quite in the rear view, obviously, but enough time had passed that people are going to go back to the movies again. And they did for this in droves. It made almost $50 million opening weekend. It's now been out for a little over 2 weeks, and it is the first movie in the COVID times to hit $100 million. Tenet could not do that. And that was one that stayed in theaters forever because there was nothing really coming out other than the Croods movie and that Robert De Niro movie, The War with Grandpa. So Tenet stayed in movies forever, but here, just on its third weekend, Quiet Place has passed $100 million, the first in COVID to do so, and I think there's a reason for that. A, people are ready to go back to the theaters, but B, this is a movie that honestly, it demands to be seen on the big screen. And I got lucky in both of my Quiet Place experiences because I was very worried going into the first one that I would hear a lot of talking and there would be a lot of, chatter and noise, and there wasn't. Everybody was super respectful, and it was a pretty packed house. I mean, I saw it like on a Friday or Saturday night, and I think it might have been opening weekend. This one, obviously had been out a couple of weeks, and just I hadn't gotten around to seeing it yet. That's the only reason I didn't go see it opening weekend. I was just a little busy, but I saw this on a Wednesday night, so there was only one other group of people in the theater, and like us, they were very respectful, very quiet. My friend and I did whisper a little bit to each other about a couple of plot points, but we were all very quiet and everything. And it's funny in a movie like this where silence is sort of the name of the game. Even when something happens that in a normal horror movie I would like exclaim or yell, I literally did this. When something happened early in this movie that I would have screamed about, I went and just kind of held my breath in as to not disturb the other patrons in the theater. That this movie makes you kind of do that because you want that whole experience. I don't think this movie is perfect. It's not quite as good as that first one. And I think the reason is I disagree with some of the things the characters were doing. They seemed very stupid. And I know in horror movies that's fairly typical, but there were two things in this movie, and again, no spoilers, so I won't say what they were, but there were two things that happened in this movie that I was like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, that was really, really stupid. Like, what are you doing? You dumb character. So for a couple of those things that, yes, maybe they advanced the plot, but I think they could have gotten around that in other ways as well. So that part was kind of a bummer. But this is easily one of the best movies I've seen this year. Top three, probably. And maybe by the end of the year, still up there in that pantheon. I've given no A pluses this year so far, so it certainly isn't quite to that level. But yeah, that first one I would say is an A at this point in retrospect, and I leave A Quiet Place Part 2 with an A minus. It is right up there, and I love that they're expanding on this universe. I would like to see a third. I would not like to see a sixth, a seventh, and an eighth, like a lot of horror franchises do. Wrap it up on that trilogy, in maybe 2023 or something, and I think that would be great. But they certainly left the door open enough for a new movie in the franchise. Emily Blunt, it almost goes without saying with her, she could do no wrong. Mary Poppins Returns, to Sunshine Cleaners, to Sicario, to the Quiet Place series. She can do it all. So I didn't even really mention her because why would you need to? She's excellent in everything. And also the kid, Noah Jupe, I've seen him since Wonder, and he's been in Ford and Ferrari and many things in the meantime, and he's usually very good as well. And this Melissa Simmons, I would love to see her getting more work too, post Quiet Place. So, all right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye.